Do you like your saxophones to look old and scuzzy like this one on my left, or new and shiny like this one on my right? So in today's video, we are going to be putting unlacquered saxophones through their paces and checking them out against their lacquered counterparts. We're going to be focusing the test today on this new Jean Paul AS860 brand of alto saxophone. We've got an unlacquered one on my left here and a lacquered one on the right. I'm going to be testing out these saxophones blindfolded with exactly the same mouthpiece setup. So let's get going and see how they sound. As you can see, I'm sporting a fine pair of white cotton gloves. This is for the reason that on the unlacquered version, there's a slightly tacky feel, and I didn't want that to be a giveaway. Also on the mouthpiece setup, two identical mouthpieces. These are CNC made mouthpieces, so the consistency is extreme. We've got the same Rovner lig, it's a light lig, positioned exactly the same here. The reed is a Lacquered 2.5 strength American cut reed, and what's crucial here is that the tip of the reed and the side portions of the reed are lined up in exactly the same manner from one setup to the other. When I actually tested this mouthpiece setup before doing this video, I found that the two mouthpieces were performing in a really identical manner, so I'm very happy with that. Okay, well let's just get cracking and do the test. Sling on the blindfold, Jamie.
Yep, okay, so that's saxophone number 1.
Okie dokie.
Let's get to saxophone number 2. Welcome back to the world.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for the best blindfold in the world. That is absolutely fantastic.
You did look rather sexy in that.
Yeah, great. Now, on to the test. I think I'm just going to come straight out with it. I think saxophone number 2 was the unlacquered one. But it was a very close call because to me they sounded so similar. So I was trying to really elongate those notes so I could hear anything going on in the partials of the sound, any little giveaways. Because what I'm looking for in my head with an unlacquered saxophone is a little bit more brightness. Just the sound that should just be sizzling away a little bit more, perhaps a little bit more of an open sound. And I just felt that I was getting that a little bit more, little bit being the operative word, with the second one. So I'm going to say that number 2 was the unlacquered saxophone. Jamie, am I right?
Jim, you are correct.
Yeah! Now I can relax and get on with the rest of the video and explain the science, perhaps? So why is it then unlacquered saxophone should sound different to its lacquered counterpart? Well, when it comes down to it, it is just that very top layer on the saxophone that is making the difference to the tone, which is why, for a start, the sound is very minor in terms of its difference. But there is a difference because without that protective barrier on the instrument is able to project in a different way. You might hear more higher partials in the frequency range. That's certainly always been my take over the years. Slightly more open sound and perhaps slightly brighter would be one way to describe it. But we're just talking minuscule little things here. So again, I go back to that earlier point that it really does come down to the aesthetic, which leads me nicely onto this range of saxophones we've got behind us here. in our store here in London. So on my left here, we've got the new Atlantic brand in its unlacquered format. And you can actually see that this is quite different to the one right next to it here. This is a P. Moriat System 76, also an unlacquered instrument. And if we sort of close in on this, you can just see these sort of imperfections here. You get these little splodges, little oily marks, and sometimes even fingerprints. And it can often just be that first fingerprint that perhaps it might be the tester in the factory or someone in the store, they handle the instrument, and then that fingerprint is almost sealed there for life on the saxophone. You can't get away from it. But then I should say that over time, these instruments then sort of transform and become even older looking. So you might see a fingerprint on week 1, and then 3 or 4 months down the line, the fingerprint's disappeared and the whole thing just looks like a very old instrument, which is perhaps part of the fascination with unlacquered instruments, the fact that they start out with one particular look and over a few weeks or months they transform into something else. So yes, we got the P. Moriat System 76 there in an unlacquered finish. Down here to my left we have the Cannonball in a much more sort of yellowy unlacquered finish. And of course they're all looking different because there are different manufacturing processes to produce these instruments to allow them to have a different look. Sometimes they're treated with different chemicals to bring out a certain look. We're dealing with different brass, so it's different from factory to factory, but it's nice to see that you do have this array of unlacquered finishes and all certainly full of character and quite different from the standard very shiny saxophone. You can see one right in front of me here, this P. Moriat Venus, traditional lacquered saxophone with its sort of brand new shiny look that many people will love. So I suppose in terms of preference, that's exactly it, what I just said there. Very much is a preference thing. Some people do love to have something where they open the box and they've got this feeling of, that is what I want, an instrument without imperfection, it's shiny, it's perfect. And other people, they kind of hark after that old vintagey look, just sort of reminiscent of those old classic instruments from the 50s, 60s or whenever. And the beauty is that with these modern manufacturers, we still have the beauty of and perfection of modern manufacturing, but with that classic look of the unlacquered instrument. So I suppose, in a nutshell, there is something for everyone.